I mentioned at the beginning of Mass that we're on to the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, and there are 34. So we're counting down towards, as we would see in the church, the end of the church year. As you know, Advent, a few weeks from now, is the beginning of our church year. Isn't it interesting that as we come to the end of a calendar year, we were just beginning a year, because Advent, of course, is the beginning of remembering Christ at Christmas, the life and birth of Christ. And throughout our ordinary time, we wear green and we listen to the stories of Jesus. We hear his teachings, we listen to his virtues, we see the way that he grew and nurtured in his own faith, and we seek as Catholics, as Christians, to grow over the year. So, as we know, we put the green on, and we think about green symbolising growth, maturity, development. You know, we think about the trees, the green trees and the green grass, you know, that kind of symbolises new life and new hope. So a really beautiful practice to do at the end of a year, as we come to an end of a church year, is to look back, to review the year. Often we do that when we come towards Christmas, and we kind of make a New Year's resolution. Oh, it's a brand new year, a new year of opportunity. This is the resolution I'll make. And if you're anything like me, a day or two after you've made it, it's gone. It's gone. You've got to start again with another resolution. But so we're in the process of growing and developing and nurturing in our faith. So as you look over your year, you might think about the different talents, the many graces God has poured into your hearts this year, over this year of faith, this great year of faith we've had together on this journey. And the reason I start off by talking about talents, because we hear in the Gospel today this understanding of talent. Back in the Old Testament, a talent was like a scale. People would put gold or silver or kind of goods in this weight, and it would determine, the weight would determine how much. So 500. So they say that the temple, this old temple that was built, 500 talents of gold, meaning the weight of gold was about 500 on the talent scale. We come to the New Testament, and talent was a measurement of money. It was the coins that they used in the day. So because they were run by the Romans, the Jewish people, and so they used the coinage, which was a denarius. You can add that a bit and make it a day's wage, and a year's wage would become your talent. That's where talent comes in. So if we look at it modern day language, we're probably looking at maybe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, one talent. So when we look at the Gospel, and we might think, oh, those people, we think numerically they didn't get much. One only got one. The other two, the other five, that's not much. But when you think about it in the talent sense, 20, 30, 40,000, well, the one that received one, that's a lot of money. We can do a lot of things with 20, 30, 40,000. I don't know how, within that range, probably more these days, inflation rises. And so we see the same thing, 20,000 for one, let's say 5 times 2 is 10, so you've got 10,000 for the second, 5 talents. 10 times 2 is 20, so say 20, 40, 60,000 for the next one. I've probably got my maths wrong, but you can work it out. Okay, so it's a lot of talents, a lot of money. And so notice that the Master in the Gospel we hear about, who is Jesus, or God, gives to these people various talents according to their ability. So this is beautiful. God, who has created us and knows us and knows these people, said, right, I'm going to give you this many talents, a talent of music, okay? And you're really good at compassion and looking after people and reaching out to people. So I'm going to give you a bit more because you need a bit more strength. And for you, you've got another talent. So all of them have been given to their ability. See, God knows that they'll do well, and he entrusts it to them. So what happens? We're told the Master goes away, and we hear about the trade. We don't know how the first two traded. Maybe they invested it. Maybe they, I don't know about finance. I can't work. I'm not financial, but I don't know. Maybe they sold a business and they invested money, or maybe they brought things and they sold it and they earned profit. Okay, something like that. Financial. Anyway, they made a bonus out of the talents they made. And so I think as we look upon our year, there have been things entrusted to us. One thing that has been entrusted to us is grace. and the grace might be, well, in God's eyes, it's plenty of grace, 1, 2, or 5. But what he wants us to do is to use this grace and the talents that we have for growth, for development, for investment. So as we look upon our year, we might think, I've kind of grown in compassion this year. Or yes, I've got this musical talent and I've come to the choir. Or I've been more involved in music. Or, I've got this really great gift of administration and in my workplace I've been able to get a promotion. Or, something like that. That's what we look at, how we've grown in our talents. So we come to the gospel, this is what these people have done. They've invested well, they've done well, except for the one person. What did he do? Well, it's not much here, I'm just going to bury it and hide it and, I'll give it back to him. I pity that man because he was entrusted with a beautiful talent, but he didn't use it. We see about that, don't we? We hear about that as the Master comes back. So the Master comes back, just like Jesus will come back too in the second coming, or either he'll come back again or we'll die and meet him face to face. Whatever happens first, we'll be asked to give an account. And so in both men who have traded well and done well, they get the pat on the back, congratulations, come and enjoy the Master's happiness. The poor old other fella comes back and he says, you know what, I know what kind of man you were, which I find strange because when you think about the currency, he was a very generous man. $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 he's given him, but I know you're evil and you're grasping and things like that. So I was afraid. See, the motivation was fear. He was given a talent, but he was afraid to use it, and so I buried it. I let it just. Did you let it rot away? Did you let it just, not do anything? Did you not let it grow? Did you fertilise it? No, I just let it bury. And here it is, it's yours. Well, thanks very much, he says, but you could have invested it or you could in the bank and could at least done something to it. So this is what God is telling us. I've given you gifts. I've given you talents because I love you and I know that you'll use them well. So what are you doing about it? So as we come to the end of the year, it's good to recognise these things. And as we are disciples, what's our mission is to bring the love of God to life in people. That's the main talent God has given to us in this community. Anyone who belongs to this parish is given a mandate to bring the love of God to life in people. So as we look at that mission, how have I brought the love of God to life in people with the gifts I've had, the talents? Have I brought the love of God to life in people through my music, through my compassion, through the ministries? Maybe there's some involved in visitation ministry, bringing communion to the sick. Have I brought the love of God? Yes, you have, by bringing communion. Maybe some of us have been involved with life groups or connect groups. Have I grown in fellowship? Have I grown in the love of God with my brothers and sisters whom I share our faith? Yeah, you probably have. Or have I grown, the coffee cart ministry? Have I been able to be more hospitable and more loving and less stressful when everyone's coming to get a coffee from me after Mass? Yeah, you probably have. So these things we need to look upon ourselves. How have I grown? Have I grown in faith, prayer, virtues? Have I grown in those fruits of the Spirit? There's 9 of them. Love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, self-control. I don't know the 9th one. Anyone have a guess? Okay, humility, maybe that's one. But there's 9 fruits in Galatians 5, you can read that. Have I grown in these fruits? You look at a healthy tree and look at that beautiful tree, it's producing apples. So someone looks at our life and says, well, you're bearing good fruit, I can see, love, joy, patience, etc. So as we come to the end of the year, we thank God for his goodness. And just like the woman we hear in the Old Testament, she's been busy, at the wheel, at the spindle, doing things with her hands and making her husband happy and feeding her children and going to work, great things. We hear in the second reading, there's been an activity. It's not time to sleep or to be drunk, but we need to be active. And so also we hear about these men in the Gospel, they were active in their gifts. So the reason I'm kind of painting a picture here is because the call is being placed upon us this weekend. On behalf of Father Chris, he's asking us to give us thought to this Christ the King challenge. We used to call it Pentecost challenge. And that, remember, the challenge is that if you feel that you've grown over the year as a disciple, if you felt that I've grown in love of God, I've grown in the way I've shared my faith with other people, if I feel that, Jesus has become more real and personal in my life, then I actually need to make a stance. I need to stand up and make a commitment to follow him more. See, once upon a time when we were baptised, that all happened. But our parents stood on our behalf. They presented us to the priest or the deacon and said, "This is Brian, and I'm vouching for him as a Christian, and I want him to be baptised, and that he'll share the good news and be a good boy and live out his baptismal dignity." Well, Brian's sort of grown up and he's lost hair along the way, and he sort of stumbled and fell, and he's sort of used talents and he's misused talents, but he's still here. But now he needs to make that commitment again to come forward as an adult Brian. Still small, but an adult Brian. Still short in stature, but an adult. So that's like us. Perhaps we have felt, God's really blessed me and touched me, and I want to tell God that I believe in him, and I'm going to make that step forward. That's what we call the Christ the King challenge, Pentecost challenge. And if that's your desire and inspiration, then this is the daunting thing, to actually come forward. So this will be next week. You actually come forward and make this stance. That what you did is baptism through your godparents, your parents. Now as an adult, you're standing out the front and saying, "Here I am. I'm a follower of Jesus, and I love the Lord, and I dedicate myself to him." We call it an altar call, or a stepping forward. So you've got 1 week to think about it. Because next week, whoever's doing Mass, I said last night, the 6 p.m. crowd, I don't know who's doing Mass because we chop and change every week, as you know. Usually Father Chris is here, but we chop and change. So next week, the priest, it might be me, surprise, surprise, might be anyone, one of us 4 anyway. And we'll be asking anyone who wants to take the step to come forward. If you felt over the last year you've grown in the Lord, there's been growth, there's been a strength, and you want to commit yourself to the Lord. Okay, so there'll be that call. But also, you might even think, yes, and it's for those who haven't done it ever. Because you may have noticed that people do this every year. I think we've been doing it since Pentecost every year. But so you haven't done this for the first time, you're actually going to step out and make that step of faith. So you've got 1 week, that's your homework. 1 week to think about that. And have I really grown in the Lord? Yes, probably have. And have I ever made a faith statement or standing at the front and committing my life publicly? No, I probably haven't. So that's the calling upon you to come up. No pressure, but just as it's between you and God, and you're showing a physical kind of outward sign to God that, Lord, I love you, I believe in you, I've grown, and I can't hide it. Or maybe I actually don't know what's going on in my life, but something's changed. The way I live life, the way I see faith, the way I see God, it's changed. So I need to make a stance for that. I need to publicly declare that before my brothers and sisters. And then we'll pray for you and we pray for you and continue to bless you and encourage you to be more active in your gifts, your talents, for the glory of God, of course. So think about that, and the challenge is ours, and the call is upon us to make that response. Next week, the priest, whoever it is, will lead us in that calling forth next week. As for this week, let's continue to grow in grace and grow in the gifts. And maybe as you recognise your gifts, your talent, maybe you can ask God this week, Lord, I need a bit of polishing up. I need a bit of purifying. I need a bit of stepping out. You've given me this gift, and I have buried it. I'm sorry, Lord. I have dug it, and it's yours. But I want to do something about it. I think someone once said that God has given us a gift of life. That's God's gift to us. What we do with it is our gift to God. God, you have been so beautiful, so blessed in my life, Now this is my gift to you. You've given me a gift of life. Now I have something to show for it. Something beautiful for God.